Having a great day today. I am here with my friend Mark DeGrasse, and we're going to talk about AI in business and especially AI branding and marketing. And Mark has an incredible event coming up. And today we're going to have just an informative discussion about how you can use AI in your business, why you should use AI in your business, and maybe this summit will be a good fit for you. And we're just going to kind of cover all of that. But before we do, welcome, Mark. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get involved with branding and marketing?
Sure. Thank you, Amy. I've actually been doing branding and marketing for about 20 years. It's been basically since the dawn of the internet. At the time, when the internet came around, I was actually in real estate and it was all, I was only like 18, but all these real estate agents like wanted a bunch of online stuff because it was so new. And so that was kind of the start of it. Then I developed several companies. One, I was actually able to grow organically and then sell to a company out here in Austin called On It. And so that was kind of the beginning. And then, it just expanded from there. So I've been a fractional CMO. I had a website branding agency for about 6 years where I personally basically developed 300 brands and kind of marketing systems for small businesses. And then I was the president of digitalmarketer.com and worked as a fractional CMO and basically executive consultant for brands like carparts.com. So I basically got the gamut of how all branding and marketing works, and that kind of fed into the systems that I'm teaching right now at the academy.
I love that. So, you worked in every capacity of marketing for all sorts of different companies, whether they were online businesses, digital businesses, or even selling physical products. And that just gives you a breadth of experience. But what inspired you to focus on AI-driven branding and marketing?
AI was basically the realization of all of my kind of computer dreams. I grew up, my dad's a computer engineer, and so I started using a computer when I was about 5 years old. So I basically saw the expansion, but I've also really been a big fan of a subgenre of sci-fi called hard sci-fi for my whole life. And so I basically read like thousands of instances of AI. So when it started to become practical and kind of widespread, I was like, oh my gosh, this is all my dreams. And the way I usually describe it is like I think we've all been doing robot work for the history of the internet, where instead of the applications actually helping us, we were actually feeding the applications everything all the time. We were the ones that had to navigate through, learn all the systems, like to make all these tools useful. And I just thought that was so dumb because all the things I had seen about AI or computers, all even the old like 50s, 40s sci-fi was always like, hey, computer, please do this thing for me. And then it would do the thing for you. And you wouldn't have to do all this input. So when it started getting popular a couple of years ago, kind of mainstream, I was like, oh, thank goodness. We won't have to do data entry and pattern recognition and scraping and all this kind of basic stuff that should be done by a computer. We have assumed that for decades now. And so when AI started coming out, I was like, oh my gosh, now we could finally get to work. We could finally start multiplying what we could do as individuals without having to build entire companies around basically simple processes. So it was AI is a dream, and especially for marketing and content creation, like it couldn't be more perfect, really.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And being a marketer myself, I couldn't believe how amazingly that I could train AI to sound like me and write in my style and just take direction so well. And you're right, like the change from putting something into a spreadsheet and then creating a formula and getting an answer. It's so different than what we have today with the advancements and AI becoming mainstream. It's really awesome. So, what has been your most rewarding experience helping businesses grow through through the use of AI and technology?
It's really just the ability to take a concept that for me may have taken 20 years to develop through, mistakes and experiences and all this kind of stuff, and basically just hand it to somebody and say, hey, here's the thing that you can do. Just plug in a couple formulas and boom, you get something that would really take you maybe months or years to train into. Now, instead of just kind of like, publishing an article where it's kind of, oh, here's 5 ways for you to niche your market. And have hope that people go through the steps to actually learn the information. Now, instead, I could say, no, here's the information. Like you should still learn it, but here's a tool that will instantly make it applicable to your business. And that's the really exciting part, is really being able to teach anybody to do anything and get a deliverable instantly. I mean, that's really never been possible before.
Yeah, and I think that's something that businesses struggle with. Even though ChatGPT and Gemini and some of these other AI platforms are really easy to use, what I hear most from business owners is that it's not giving them the results that they want, right? Well, I tried it. That's what we hear all the time, right? I tried it and the writing's really bad. Or I tried it, or I don't think it'll ever replace employees in my business. Like, to me, that's when I hear that, I'm like, wow, you don't know what it can do, right?
Oh, well, it all goes back to that, like, you don't know what you don't know. You could hand a paintbrush to 10 different people, but the artist is going to make something amazing, and the person who's never done anything will not know what to do with it. And it's the same thing with AI. Like, it doesn't make you an instant marketing expert. It takes years and decades to do that, but it gives you the ability to access those skills immediately, even if you don't know it. But you still have to be able to utilize the tool well by knowing what
Yeah.
the heck you're doing. So it doesn't replace marketers or any professional, really. It just enhances their ability to deliver, and hopefully allows other people to do it too. But the base knowledge, you can't avoid having or needing that.
Yeah, that's so true because it's all in the prompt, right? It's all in the data that you feed to AI. And that's what you're doing with the AI Branding Academy. You're making it possible for the, novice to tap into your years and years of marketing experience and prompt like you would, like a true marketing expert would, to get incredible results that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And that's what's so cool about what you're doing with the AI Branding Academy and with this upcoming in-person summit, that where people are going to be able to get hands-on and leave with the tools to just really master this. So how has your approach to branding changed with AI as opposed to before?
Oh, completely. It's kind of like, I always looked at marketing because I've been studying marketing, for decades. And it was always kind of confusing to me because I was like, everybody focuses on these tips or these specific techniques or these specific marketing methods. And they're like, here's how you do social media, or here's how you do a welcome email campaign, or here's how you do ads on Facebook. And I was always like, there's something missing, because I could do each one of those things using the methods that you taught me, and it could not work at all. And if it doesn't work in that specific instance, then I'm like, okay, well, that technique just doesn't work. And so I realized that there's no binding factor in all these different techniques that everybody was teaching. And it led me back to branding, because I said, okay, to set up any kind of campaign or any kind of strategy, what do you need? You need these base elements of what the goals of the business is, what their values are, what their target market is. And so that's where I really started finding, that branding was really the thing that most businesses are missing. Because if you say, like, what is branding to any business owner, they'll usually say, oh, it's my logo and it's my colors and maybe it's my fonts. And then it stops. Like, that's it. And it's kind of like, no, it's all these things. And especially it should be rooted in the vision of the founder, because that person honestly has the most to gain and the most to lose. And so they're going to be there the whole time. And instead, what we do when we don't define our branding and all these different elements is we're assigning that task to the people we hire. We're assigning it to our customers. We're assigning it to the universe. And that leads to inconsistency and then less effectiveness of any single marketing method that you can try. And so branding was where I had to, and that's why we're called AI Branding Academy, even though we cover a ton of media design and a ton of performance marketing. I still said, no, you have to establish the branding first. And then thanks to AI, now we can propagate all those branding elements into every marketing action that you take, and really any business action that you take, simply by referring back to the AI and saying, hey, we're doing an event coming up. We need to plan a booth. How can we make sure that the booth is branded properly? And then if you have the AI set up correctly, it'll just tell you. And so now you've eliminated brainstorming meetings and bringing in outside consultants and wasting time. And instead, what you get to do is say, hey, here's how we're going to brand the booth. Now I could take this information, hire an event specialist and say, hey, I need you to execute this thing. And so now you can not only, run a booth that's branded, but you could hire for that booth effectively.
Yeah, we've all seen businesses in the past before this AI driven branding strategy. We've all seen businesses that have put out confusing marketing where you're just, or let's say a business is rebranded and I know that business and then I see them at a trade show or something and suddenly they look different. And I'm like, what's going on there? Same thing if they're putting out products and each one is branded completely differently with different colors and different look and feel. And you never really know that you're buying from that brand. You just think it's a commodity or just a regular product, right? There's a look and a feel. And, even this amazing at home logo behind me, it was designed by a brand strategist. Every single color, every font, everything into the origami bird at the top and the dot above the I to represent, the way that we work individually with brands, and the origami bird representing how we work with innovation and helping people develop cool products, right? That cost me a lot of money, but it looked way better than the first logo that I came up with. And now I had a style guide. I had something to use throughout everything that I did from that point forward. And you're right. The big difference is if I can use that now, all of that information, and I can feed it into AI and I understand how to do that. I'm going to learn how to do that from Mark during this 2-day summit. I'm so excited. But now everything else I do is easy. Because instead of having to hire someone again or them getting the misinformation and screwing up the branding because they didn't understand it, now I have something that's already been trained and I say, here it is, I need a booth or I need a marketing campaign for this new event that we're doing, or I need this or that. And it's going to know that and it's going to design it. And then, like you said, I can hire the professional to execute it. I don't have to deal with things being completely, discombobulated. So along that line, why do you believe that AI is no longer just an option, but a necessity for businesses today?
Well, it goes back to what you just talked about, where it's like, hey, I set up my brand parameters, and now I know how my next brochure is going to look, and I know how my next website is going to look, and all these different things, because all of those decisions are already made. And that's really the big point that we try to teach at the academy is, hey, if you could just set up these branding parameters, then next time you do anything else, you don't need to have a brainstorming meeting, bring in the whole marketing team to talk about what you should do next, and then make, a bunch of designs by committee that are probably inconsistent, don't reflect the vision of the owner, and now are basically like a political contest between departments in terms of how it's going to get done. And so what's going to happen, I think, is in most companies is middle management and literally the middle bureaucracy is going to be completely eliminated because they're basically a barrier from the vision from the top getting down to the executors at the bottom. So if you're not using AI, you're going to have to maintain that bureaucracy that has been wildly ineffective. We all know it. It's like as companies get bigger and you add more and more people, it's like every individual actually gets less effective at whatever they're doing because you have the internal politics, you have a bunch of personalities. And honestly, since we haven't been able to propagate, the branding standards through all of these different departments within an organization, you just end up with these battles between everybody. And it's like, no, all of this is a giant waste of time. And honestly, if we could hire a brand manager to make sure every process was branded within the company, maybe it would work, but that person would get burnt out really quick. And so what I think is going to happen is you're going to have these standards that you set with an AI, we call the AI branding framework. Then you could just have everybody query the AI in order to come up with their processes, in order to make sure that your employee onboarding is branded properly with the right values, to make sure that your next company event is branded properly with all these different elements. And so it's really, you're going to be battling, with this giant useless organization against these really tight organizations that are super consistent because a bunch of decisions that would have been made by the bureaucracy are now brought to the AI and it's just told. And that's really why I did it, because I saw with marketing, it's like, hey, you go into a job, hey, we need you to make our next social media campaign. All right, well, how should we do it? And they're like, I don't know, you're the social media person, you come up with it. And so usually what happens is that's why the marketer gets fired, because there's no consistency with the brand, and it's just this one-off siloed island that can't be effective. And so what I tell marketers now is, if you can just establish the branding, now you don't talk to the owner anymore. You basically say, hey, owner, I got your brand standards, I know what your brand is, and so now I'm going to query that, and I'm going to get the job done with social media and not talk to you about it, because you don't know anything about social media. That's why you hired me, and I have your information. So now we get rid of all the brainstorming and I can do my job properly. So that's the thing. You're going to have super tight organizations fighting against bloated bureaucracies that can't move quickly and are completely inconsistent. And that's it's technically David versus Goliath, but we all know what happened in that situation. So there you go.
Yeah. I love that, and when we think about the amount of money that is saved by properly training an AI with this data that your team can then be trained to use. And not only the amount of money that is being saved by this in, less mistakes, less people to hire, and the people who are on your team being 100 times more effective and empowered in their jobs. But then when we think about the result of that, so yes, you're going to save a ton of money and time and resources, but what are you going to gain? When you think about when a landing page is executed properly, when a product design shines through and communicates that psychological buying decision to the customer, and suddenly your conversion rates go way up, it carries through. People feel a certain way when they associate with your brand, and it's consistent, and that leads to revenue. And then what ends up happening, like you said, is you've got these little guys who are just getting started, who are hungry, who are ready to use AI, who are ready to learn this, and they are building brands like Nike did, with tons of years, tons of money, tons of research. And what's happening with these bigger brands, and I know because I've talked to some of these bigger companies, and I've talked to their marketing departments, they're not even using AI. They don't know how to fit it into their existing bureaucratic processes. And what's happening is these little guys are sneaking up. I know, I just started helping brands on TikTok Shop, and I've been helping brands on Amazon for years. And what's happening is these little guys are sneaking up and they're eating your lunch. And this is going to happen at the speed of light because AI is that fast. And so I can't imagine like all of the people that are going to come to this summit and learn these things. And the difference, I think, between what you're teaching and what I can learn on my own is that you're teaching consistency, and you're using your years of experience in marketing to help me be consistent and effectively use that AI across all of my marketing processes, versus me just starting a new conversation with ChatGPT every time saying, write me an email campaign, but I haven't properly trained that AI on my business and my branding guidelines and all of that. So what you're teaching us is really going to change the foundation of how we use AI and our effectiveness across all of our marketing efforts across the board, right?
Exactly. And that's really what we do. So the academy is really set up to provide, I call them default frameworks, because a lot of times what you have is an organization pushing a specific framework, like, hey, here's the marketing path 5,000. Like, this is the only way you can grow. And I saw that everywhere. I'm like, no, you can grow however you want. What you need is the startup plan, because, that's the hard part, is that you got to come up with the idea, and then you got to systemize it, and then you got to package it and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, no, I'm just going to give you a default framework. You could manipulate this however you want, but at least you have a beginning. And so what we did was create three specific frameworks that I thought were completely essential for actually making marketing effective, which was your branding, of course, which is what we initially focus on because everything has to be derived from that. Then you have your marketing. And so we have a specific, simplified marketing strategy. Because when you say marketing strategy, just look up the term. People have a million definitions for it. And I said, no, you basically only have two things you could do, or three things you do in marketing. You could do your branding, and your branding doesn't sell products. Your branding sells a company. Then you do your performance marketing. And this is where everybody usually gets stuck. They only do performance marketing, where it's basically you sell an offer, a product, or a service. That's performance marketing. You're saying, hey, here's the product, here's what it does, here's what the price, you should buy it. That's performance marketing. And so those two things, your branding sells the company, your marketing sells the product. That's the marketing coin, I call it. Now, what holds those two pieces together is your content. And your content has always been confused, because it was like content and SEO were always like, oh, it's just SEO. So just put up whatever, optimize for the algorithm, and that's all that matters. And I was like, no, your content is your forward facing evidence that you're competent. Because if you don't have content to justify all the things you say you are, then why should I believe anything you say? And so content has always been like the base of companies, or should be, and never has been. So I've been pushing this message for over a decade now, because that's how I built my company. But the content's actually what holds your performance marketing, your branding together, and makes it unified. And so it actually lives independently of either one, but supports both. And so when I do like a performance marketing campaign, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this course and it's going to be about social media marketing. What content do I have from my database in order to support this message? And so now when you just pull the content out, now it's related to all your branding because you made it branded. And now you're supporting your marketing campaign, and you're showing the evidence of why you're competent. And now everything comes together into a complete system, rather than me saying, hey, I'm doing a social media campaign and I'm not going to even think about what's on my blog. I'm not going to think about what's in my email campaigns. I'm not going to think about the things I'm advertising. I'm just going to do a social media campaign. And so this is where you get the inconsistency that you were talking about at the beginning between the marketing and what the people see. Because the problem with most business owners is you think like, oh, everybody's looking at everything I produce, and they're really checking it out, and they're really,
No,
auditing
they're
my content.
just
I'm like, no,
scrolling. They're
uh,
scrolling.
they're scrolling. They don't give a
Give them
crap.
three
You could,
seconds, right?
so the only thing you can actually do is be consistent, because unless you're insanely consistent, all these impressions you're making everywhere just don't really matter very much, because it's just a single impression. But when you're very consistent and it all looks similar and it all has a similar voice and a similar message, now every impression you make is actually leading to the, furthering people down your customer journey. And now they'll buy in the future, and they might not even realize that they've seen your brand 500 times, but they have, and every impression actually led them further down the path, versus, okay, siloed systems and I don't know where I'm at, and now you're starting the path over and over and over again.
Yeah, makes sense. So what you described in needing that framework and feeding that framework into everything else that you do for that consistency, that's so important. It sounds like maybe that's good for a business that's just getting started. But what about those bigger businesses that have had that framework for years and already have hired people into those positions to keep that consistency? Who is this for, right? Like, what businesses or industries do you think are going to benefit most from learning these strategies? Should those bigger businesses that have already hired for those positions, and are just so kind of stuck in their ways, how can they make that transition? Is this for them? Who should they send to the summit?
Yeah, you know what? Your marketing people. That's the main people. Now, I have taught these systems to HR professionals. I've taught them to accountants. I've taught them to a bunch of different industries in order to apply. But specifically, if you are a big business and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I got to get ahead of AI because we don't even know what it means, then send your marketing directors, or at least send somebody who's a manager of a specific silo. Because what we're trying to do is say, hey, let's establish the branding, and then now you could get consistent on any project, any method, because you have the branding in place. And then hopefully that person can come back to you and say, hey, here's how we did it. And then you could actually implement these systems throughout entire organizations. I always tell people that I'm actually an HR major. Like I'm didn't do anything for marketing in school other than business planning, because that's why I did HR. They had an entrepreneurship minor that had a lot of business development and planning in it, because I wanted to do fundraising for public companies. When I started doing that, though, I was like, I don't like this. I like small businesses that care about their customers. But yeah, I would just say your marketing, anybody in the marketing department could get these systems and start to apply them within your organization. But honestly, if you're the business owner, you're the executive, it'll be super useful there too, because the lessons we teach are actually universal for the application of AI. They're just specific in saying that until you establish your branding principles, then nothing else you do after that really matters.
I love it. Makes sense. So whether I'm a new business and I want to get started in this, or whether I'm a big business that's been in business for many years and I want to send my team, I'm going to get a lot out of it. People can work directly with you already, Mark. They can reach out to you with your AI Branding Academy and they can learn these techniques. But what makes the summit, attending the summit, important, and what makes it different than other branding and marketing events?
It's a complete system. So the event, we are going to have some speakers that are coming in for specific topics on AI and marketing, but most of it is, hey, we're actually going to build your brand strategy. We're going to build a marketing strategy, and then we're going to build the content to support both of those things all during the summit. And so, that's really the big difference, is you're going to walk away with like a complete marketing system, whereas most people have little pieces of it. And so this will just give you all the information you need. And then what we're essentially doing is building custom GPTs, so applications that you could instantly start using to execute your social media strategy or your event strategy or your experiential marketing strategy, whatever it is. And you'll have the systems in place to just query and then get the job done, or hire people to do it for you. And so even if you aren't going to say produce a podcast using the podcast creation process that we're going to show you, you could still go, and now you understand how a podcast is made, which will make hiring an agency or hiring a professional to do it for you way more effective. Because what usually happens is it's like, well, I don't know about TikTok, so I'll just grab some random person to do TikTok, and then I'm going to pay them for 12 months before I realize that what they're doing actually has no relation to what we need done. And now I just wasted a year of time and a bunch of money. So you'll instead be able to say, hey, here's how I want TikTok applied to my business. Or maybe you'll find out that TikTok doesn't apply to your business at all, which is also fine. But all the systems you'll get will actually help you make all those decisions without having to waste a bunch of money and time experiencing that failure yourself.
Okay, well, that sounds like a workshop. And sounds like we have a summit that is really like an in-depth workshop. It sounds a little intimidating, Mark. Like, what if
It would
I
be
what if I
without
don't
AI.
know how to prompt AI? What if I've never used AI before? Like, what can attendees expect to learn over the course of these 2 days? And how should they prepare for that?
It's actually, the awesome part is you don't need any preparation. You don't even need any skills really, other than the ability to open up ChatGPT, and we use Google Drive. So having Google Drive information would be great. But that's pretty much it. And that's why actually this event would have been completely impossible without AI, because AI is essentially allowing me to say, hey, here's the lesson really quick. You could go back and you could review the details of how this works, But right now, here's the template we're going to use, and here's the AI we're going to use. And then you'll just get a link. You'll answer the questions within the AI. It'll spit out the answer. And all of a sudden, you've done marketing, or you've done branding, or you've done content, and you didn't actually need to know exactly how it works. Now, before I would have had to teach you this, and then you'd ask me a bunch of questions. We go back and forth, and then eventually you would understand enough to do something. But now, here's the GPT, just put in a couple answers and you get the result, and now let's apply it, and that's it. So it's, even though it sounds scary, it's just like, no, you just run the AI and then it gives you the thing, and all you have to do is make a few decisions in the process.
Got it. And for somebody who's just getting started with AI in their business, how is this summit going to help them take their first steps?
Exactly like I just stated. It'll basically say, hey, here's the GPT to get the thing done. Now, what you will learn about using AI is the process of how to query, because it's the big difference between AI and standard software is restricted. You have specific fields, you have specific functions, and it's very limited to how you can use it versus AI, where you should basically treat it like a person. A person you don't expect to, only give certain answers to get outputs out. You person you just talk to, like, hey, what do you know about this? Okay. And you have a conversation. And so that's what we teach you how to do too, which is get outside of how you've used technology to date and start treating it more like something helpful rather than like a tool that you're going to have to learn how to use before it's actually useful by itself. And so that's the big difference. It's easy. And all you have to do is be motivated and know what you want, and the systems will do it for you.
And how do you envision the practical takeaways from the summit impacting attendees' businesses right away?
Oh, it should be immediate. I mean, it's what we'll actually do is have a section where we analyze your existing marketing just to show, where are the gaps? Because a lot of companies don't even have what I call a master marketing plan that outlines how all of your different marketing systems actually work together. That'll be a future course because it's a pretty detailed process, and you do need experience in order to do that. But you'll be able to take away all of this information. You'll find out what's actually working, and hopefully, instead of throwing the mud at the wall, which is the typical technique for how you do marketing within companies, like, okay, we tried TikTok, it didn't work. Okay, we tried a newsletter, it wasn't super effective. Okay, we tried SMS, and then nobody responded. No, just stop all of that. Let's just evaluate what's currently working so we don't break it, and then what could work if we were consistently executing it. And that's what you'll get out of it. So you'll get direction, you'll get the systems in order to execute, and then you'll get the action steps in order to take next with whatever you think is going to work within your business.
Amazing. So let's get to the meat of it. How do we sign up? I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show everybody the landing page for the AI Branding Academy event. So you can go to aibranding.academy and you can click on events, and that will take you to this page. But here is the landing page. People probably want to know, what is this event and what days is it? Where is it? So Mark, take it away. Tell us about this event. It's 2 days, and where is it? When is it? And I'll scroll through as we go.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a 2-day event. It's October 9th and 10th. It's going to be in Austin, like South Austin, you could call it. And it's going to be just full days of workshops and seminar. Like I said, there are going to be presentations, but a lot of the time you're literally going to have your laptop out. I'm going to say, all right, guys, we're going to establish your brand. I'm going to send you a GPT. I'm going to send you a worksheet, and we're literally just going to use both in order to make a bunch of decisions about your business. And then at the end of it, you're going to walk away with, okay, now I have my brand pillars. I have the 9 things that really define the soul of my company. And now we're going to take that information and we're going to stack it on top of the next lesson. And so that's what you'll find with kind of the way we teach at the academy, is it's not just a one-off, here's how to do something. It's more like, hey, here's how in the context of the whole system, you're now going to take the information and apply it to your TikTok strategy or apply it to your welcome email campaign series or whatever it is. And so it's almost like we're stacking lessons on top of each other. And at every step of the way, you're getting useful, actionable information to take back home.
And, you know, I love that you're teaching AI image generation and conceptualization because that is the part that a lot of businesses are missing. They know how to have a conversation with ChatGPT. They know how, okay, write me a blog, whatever. But how do I make images for that are super effective? And I bet you generated all of these images with AI that are on your landing page, didn't you?
Yep. That's all. Well, and that's the coolest thing is the ability to brand imagery. Because, for the, I've developed hundreds and hundreds of websites, and the biggest pain in the butt was none of the companies had visual assets. None of them wanted to do a photo shoot. And then I had to rely on stock imagery that hopefully represented the brand. And I had some techniques to do that, mainly identifying a stock image photographer and then just using them all the time versus somebody looks up like business seminar and then just grabs the first photo that comes out. So what AI allows you to do and what you're seeing here is called Midjourney is the tool we use. And we use something called the Midjourney prompt generator that where, again, you figured out your branding. And so you have your color scheme, you have your primary color, you have your accent colors, you have your secondary colors, you have your hues, you have all this information. You feed it into the prompt machine. It spits out a prompt that's basically the mood of your brand plus the colors of your brand, and that combines into the imagery that is actually consistent with what you're trying to achieve, usually based off of your logo. I'm a big proponent, just like you talked about. I'm like, once you establish the logo actually has most of the visual parameters of all of your branding inside it. We use something called logo craft to reverse engineer logos, which you'll learn that too. But you'll get all this information. And again, I'm trying to make it as applicable as possible, whether you're planning on personally doing the work or if you're planning on hiring the work. And so in this case, if you said like, okay, well, I don't know how to do visuals and Mark showed me how to use Midjourney, I'm still unsure. You could still say, hey, graphic designer, I need you to design this for me, but I need you to ask the visual questions to this AI that you'll build here at the, event in order to get the answers to make sure that it's on brand. And so that's the big difference is now you don't have to be a visual expert to hire correctly in order to execute a project, and all the project parameters, you don't even have to answer those either because the AI is going to do it for you based on your branding.
I love it. So we're limited to 40 participants here, you guys. This 2-day in-depth workshop. We can't even call it a summit. We got to call it a workshop.
It's a workshop.
We're going to learn everything we need to know. They're limited to 40 participants, guys. The ticket prices are super affordable at, what is it, $9.97 for the 2 days. And I have a coupon code you can use to save some money. I think it's Amy50, is it?
Amy 50.
Amy50. So you can use my coupon code to save some money, but get in there, get off over to Austin, October 9th and 10th. I'm going to be there. I can't wait. I'm going to be talking about some little branding hacks you can do to increase your conversions very, very quickly. So let's say you haven't been able to fully execute your new packaging or whatever. Well, I'm going to show you some things you can do immediately using the tools that Mark is going to teach us over these 2 days to increase your conversions, get more customers, get things going. And so I'm excited to be a part of this event and be sponsoring this event. Amazing at Home. So happy to be part of it. And Mark, you're going to have a few speakers as well outside of just you teaching the workshop. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your speakers and what they're going to be covering?
Yes. Yeah. So there's some things with branding and marketing specifically that I'm like, man, if we have a specialist on this, that would be great. So we're bringing in Joshua and Rachel Lee. They're experts in like LinkedIn AI and personal branding. We're bringing in my friend Stephanie Novinskas. She's a agency owner, and she basically runs something called the Get It Done Day, where she produces entire, performance and branding marketing strategies within a day. And so she's going to talk about that. We also have Eitan Pollinger. He's a specialist with experiential marketing, which I think as, AI and the fakes, become more prominent online, the in-person experiences are going to get much more vital. And so he's a specialist in branding those experiences in an amazing way. Then we have who else is there? You, of course, Amy, as our e-commerce expert. How do you apply these techniques using, to your e-commerce plans? We have Rachel Woods. Rachel Woods going to be here. She is has a company called Divvy Up. .ai, and basically what her platform does is combines like 9 different AI into a workable platform where you can apply playbooks, which are individual processes, and then they create custom AI agents to do your repetitive processes for you. So she's going to talk about basically playbooks and systemization. And then we have Adam Lyons. Adam Lyons is an expert at social and basically the relationship management and how to kind of hack the psychology of your customer avatar in order to really make content that speaks to them. So it's a good lineup. And then every other second, you're going to be working on my frameworks, which is the base of the system that you could use to apply to all these other things.
I love that. It's just 2 days of in-depth work and getting the job done. Great price on the event. Only 40 attendees available to come. And there's only room for 40 attendees. So you guys are going to want to sign up now, like save your spot now. Don't hesitate. The value you're going to get out of this, you're going to save thousands and thousands of dollars after learning these techniques. These are consistent techniques that you can use throughout your business. And not only that, when you're using these techniques after you leave, it will most certainly equal extra revenue for your business. So you're going to immediately pay for this event. So maybe you send 2 staff. And the other thing is, in small events like this, where you have a limited number of people, when you have all these experts, you get to network in a way that isn't possible at these huge events with thousands of people. And when we're in this kind of workshop environment where we're really learning and we're able to kind of apply these techniques, you don't need to be intimidated like, oh, I'm going to fall behind, or, I'm not going to be able to figure it out, because there's only 40 of us, right? So we're going to be able to help each other. You're going to be able to learn from these experts that are going to be there. You're going to be able to network at a completely different level than really, really huge events. And you're going to just leave there with practical framework to really, really boost your business, no matter where you're at in your business. So I love that. I think it's going to be a great event, Mark. AIbranding.academy, everybody. AIbranding.academy. Go there, click on events, sign up, and we will see you in Austin, October 9th and 10th. Any parting words, Mark?
No, get on board. Things are changing really quick. I really think the next, billion-dollar companies are just being created right now. And so it's the Wild West. Like, it's an opportunity for probably the greatest opportunity that every individual has ever had, as we transition to this new kind of AI-based economy. So get on board, learn the basics, and you'll be able to, grow like you've never even thought possible really soon.
Yeah. And even if I didn't have a business right now, let's say I was in between businesses, I would not hesitate to sign up for this, because the amount of opportunities that could come my way after I learn these skills, wow,
Huge.
the amount of money that I could make. I could pay Mark $997 for 2 days of learning, and I can turn that into multiple millions of dollars. And I know the value in that. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. Hopefully you get a spot before they're all gone. And yeah, get on it. Get on board, like Mark says. We'll see you guys in Austin. Take care. AIbranding.academy.
Thank you, Amy.